job training with another guy all week, and for the most part, me trying to keep my eyes open while I'm sitting there in front of a data thingy. I'm 3/4 asleep. My eyes just don't want to stay awake. I blame that. My wife's mean to me, won't let me sleep. I've come up with that conclusion. Finally got her to say something. This evening we're going to be in Genesis 25, but I'll back up just a little bit into the last chapter, but we're going to go through it pretty quick to get to 25. What have we noticed, or what do we see towards the end of chapter 24 with what we'd read a week ago? Bracelets and nose rings. Okay, yeah, I kind of use that as a pretty good assumption, that nose rings and bracelets. What do we see Isaac doing towards the end of this as Rebekah's coming back to him, or as the servant and Rebekah and the others are coming back? What do we see? What do we see Isaac doing? Meditating. You know, do we see that he is obeying, you know, what's he taking time to do? I guess meditating. Who you're talking to? God. So he takes the time to go meditate or talk to God or think. And, you know, you would think that would keep him grounded, would make him somebody that, as we can see, keeps going. What does he see coming? What's coming to him? The camels. All right. So who's on these camels?
Rebekah and his servants.
Okay. Rebekah gets off her camel. What's she do?
Runs towards him.
Put the veil on. And what does that represent, or what does that show? Modesty. I mean, that to me is kind of what I'm looking at there. There's nothing flashy. I mean, it's kind of weird at one end, you know, your nose ring and bracelets, and this end we got a veil. But that's what we got. So we see that.
That's where you said we got I didn't hear last one.
Excuse me. I'm going to be raspy. You see her at home with a nose ring and bracelets, and we see her here with a veil. So we go to modesty to the nose ring and bracelets. You kind of see both, but I understand the meaning behind the nose ring and the bracelets on what it stands for. What did Rebekah become for Isaac? His wife. Okay, so that's kind of where this ends. Before we get to the next lesson, which is in 25. We'll start about verse 19, but before we do that, I kind of like the introduction or the lead into this. After Isaac and Jacob had been married for some time, Isaac prayed to the Lord that he and Rebekah might have a child. The Lord answered his prayer, and Rebekah conceived. She gave birth. The Lord spoke, before she gave birth, the Lord spoke to Rebekah and told her 2 nations were in her womb. One would be stronger than the other, and the elder would serve the younger. When the twins were born, the firstborn son was called Esau, the second was called Jacob.
Where are you at?
The introduction.
Oh,
I get Barb with introduction every time.
Okay, sorry.
I'm 2 for 2 so far.
read at 19 and we tried to.
I wanted to keep you confused.
You did it.
Sorry. I need to scream a little louder. It's not working very good for me tonight. Sorry. All right. We will have some verses down here in a minute. The twin boys grew. Esau became a hunter while Jacob was a mild man dwelling in tents. One day Esau came in from the field hungry, and when he discovered Jacob cooking pottage, he sold his birthright to his brother for food. So we're seeing an overlay of how things are going to become here. What's the importance of the birthright? Somebody want to read Deuteronomy 21:17, please? Deuteronomy 21:17.
But you shall acknowledge the son of the unloved wife as the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he has. For he is the beginning of the strength, the right of the firstborn is his.
Okay, what's that firstborn receive? The birthright, the double portion. The leadership role, per se, would have been his. By giving that up, what does that show? If God had wrote down here that, he's double portioned, he gets the first of everything. There is really what that's speaking towards, the more authority, and he just walked away from it. We get to a point where he's despising it, he's looking down upon it, he doesn't value it. That's kind of like having a leadership role and then just walking away. You're not wanting to do it. You don't put any value in that. You don't put any value in the position you hold, because that's really where Esau was. He was the guy that would have been the next one in charge, but yet he just washed his hands of it.
The thing that's interesting about the double portion is Joseph received the double portion as far as land inheritance of that. And so you ask the question, you look at this, Deuteronomy, this is the second giving of law. So they're giving, when they're going into Canaan land, so the original law given in Exodus was 40 years earlier. And this is Jewish law, as far as stated here, the second time 40 years later. And Genesis, goes back to patriarch.
Mm-hmm.
And so, kind of question that comes up is this tradition, custom, or commandment? Which, tradition, custom, similar, but anyway.
I would state that fact more along the lines of, I'm going to mess this all up, 'cause I'm doing that in memory instead of looking it up. But, on Joseph's deal, what had his brothers done to him? And then who was that was the one, I'm drawing a blank. This is handy. I'm getting this old age stuff where you can't remember who you're talking about. Is fun. No, it'd be Israel. Is actually Jacob. Who was the wife he loved, and then who was Joseph? It gets down to that to me. But then also the treatment of Joseph by his older brothers, by selling him into slavery. I mean, that in of itself wouldn't have been it was from God, but you think about the treatment a slave gets versus the brothers, they're looking at something that isn't apples and apples. The way they were treated was two different things. But Joseph never quit either. I mean, he kept digging, he kept fighting for what he was doing, even if he was in jail. So that aspect, now that we've killed that, let's look at Hebrews 12, 16 and 17. Somebody want to read that, please?
Lest there be any fornicator or profane person like Esau, who for one morsel of food sold his birthright. For you know that afterwards, when he wanted to inherit the blessing, he was rejected. For he found no place for
So when he's selling it, do you think he was really giving it up? If you think about it right there and what they said, and we can go to that. It happens here later, but by selling it for that food, what was he supposed to get when he came back in to Isaac? What was he going to get? He would have got his blessing. What happened? He got supplanted there too. Because Rebecca had Jacob come in and basically undercut him. I mean, it's not a really good example of how people should be as far as going in, around, and kind of snaking their way through here. But I am also going to hit something that, while I was reading this, it hit me kind of funny, but I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it later when we're reading into it. But it's something that just went across my mind today, and I'll probably forget when we get there. Esau, what was Esau's descendants later named? Edomites. Okay. The word Edom means red. What were the descendants of Jacob? So we saw a break here. You're going to have two different peoples basically come out of this. Two different forks. And we'll go down through here and read.
You know, you're look at where you're at, you know, near, not long after the flood in comparison to things, you know, compared to today. And so you've got, when we get into chapter 25, which I know you're not there yet, you mentioned, you know, about the branch, Edomites and Israelites. And so you go back, you look at this, and you've got other nations that are mentioned here. And so a lot of these people, God blesses their genealogy as far as they go on, and they have, you know, large families that become entire nations. And so, you know, that's just kind of something to think about that I noticed. And then you also look at the promise made to Abraham in Genesis 12 was that through your seed all the nations of the earth will be blessed. So you have Jacob and Esau on the birthright. And so I think there's some spiritual application as far as the Edomites. They weren't godly people. You know, you read Obadiah, one of the things, you know, they didn't look out for the Israelites. And so the thing is if Esau would have trusted in if he would have trusted in the promise made to Abraham, that through your seed all the nations of the earth will be blessed, you know, and the birthright going to the oldest, the double portion, then what you would have had, or the rightful heir, they would put that, because you go back and think about Hagar, Abraham and Hagar, the rightful heir. So Esau was the rightful heir.
Yeah.
Right? And so it should have been the Edomites that were in Egypt. But he sold his birthright, so he gave that out, and so they both became nations.
But you back that up to Abraham with like Hagar, like you started to mention. You know, Ishmael would have been the firstborn son there too, but that didn't happen.
And that was because of their lack of faith in God.
Yeah.
And so, you know, God says, you know, we think about Matthew 19, those two shall be one flesh. See that in the Garden of Eden. And so when God in Genesis 12 made the promise to Abraham, it would have been to Abraham and his wife, because they two should have been one flesh. And so it would have been equally to Sarah. So that's why when Abraham, because he was only half an heir, and God said, I made a promise to Abraham and to Sarah as a married couple, that through your seed all the nations of the earth will be blessed. And Hagar wasn't the one.
Wasn't the one. But it does show that God doesn't, you know, Ishmael didn't get neglected. Edom didn't get neglected on the front end. You know,
They weren't blessed.
their punishment later is going to be kind of worse, but it's because they didn't do what was right. What it comes down to. All right, let's start out chapter 25, 19, and let's go through 28, please. 19 through 28.
This is the genealogy of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac.
Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah his wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban the Syrian.
Now
Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord granted his plea, and Rebekah his wife conceived.
And the children struggled together within her, and thus she went to inquire of the Lord.
And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, 2 people shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger.
So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb.
And the first came out red. He was like a hairy brother all over. So they called his name Esau.
And after that he came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old, and she was barren.
So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a wild man, dwelling in tents.
And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob.
Okay, I kind of got a word match, but I didn't have a good way of blowing that up, and the board's not out to put the names on it, so we're just gonna go with this. Abraham begot who? Or who did Abraham? Whose child was Abraham? Isaac. When Isaac took Rebekah to wife, he was how old?
His wife. Which one?
Oh, that was Abraham.
When Isaac took Rebekah to wife, he was how old?
40.
40. Not 80.
No, wrong guy. 60.
Okay, not 60.
Thinking, I jumped to conclusions.
I know, I enjoyed it because I can see all the answers up here and I've already wrote them down, so I'm good. And that's the only reason why I would have beat you. Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was what? Barren. The Lord heard Isaac's prayer and Rebekah conceived. Get them answered faster than I can think. When the time came for Rebekah to be delivered, behold, there were what? Twins. The first child born was? It was actually, the part is actually the part, red and hairy. Then, let's see. He was named what? Esau. Okay, we got both of them. When the second child was born, his hand took hold of Esau's what? Heel. The second child was named who? Jacob. When the twins were born, Isaac was... Okay, so that basically covers everything there that we had to read. You know, it goes through the birth and whatnot. I will, give me just a second.
I kind of wonder if Jacob was a bald baby.
Bald, yeah. Because Esau wants
Might have been. I mean, Esau might have took all the hair. How do I want to do this? That's at the back end instead of the front end. I'm going to go ahead and hit it. Well, no, we'll wait. I'll wait until then. Fighting with myself out loud. Esau was a, there's 3 different answers. A farmer, a cunning, skillful hunter, or a man of the field. Okay. There we go. It took it a minute, and I had to look this pretty good because I'm like, why do you give me 2 answers for this question when it doesn't say above it that it needs to be in order? It can be any of these. But no, he was both. So he wasn't one to sit around. He was out in the field. What was Jacob? A soldier, plain, quiet man, or a dweller in tents? Dwelling in tents. And a what? Mild-mannered. So, laid back. Who did Isaac love? Why was that?
Because he could make him, he liked the venison
home the bacon.
He liked the food. You know, I haven't seen a guy yet that doesn't like food, so I mean, I'm not going to sit here and complain any. But who did Rebecca love? Okay. You think there was any bearing on that? Now I'm going to have some fun because this is the part where I was in my head a little bit different. Why was that? I'll bring out something different. I just got to thinking today. And I may be wrong, I may be right, I don't know. But why was it she liked him more? Or why did she favor him more? So, he wasn't red hair. He was a baby, maybe. Very possible. I mean, or the other one wanted to go out in the field more. I'm going to hit you with this. Verse 23. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other. The older shall serve the younger. She knew this before they were born. Which one is she going to favor? Who did the Lord say was going to be the one in charge? Now, see, I used to think it was just the fact that she just liked him more so than the other one for no really previous reason other than she just liked one more than the other. And if you look at a situation like that, that usually causes issues within the home or within the family because the 2 siblings get to bickering over each other and the mom or dad are picking sides and now we're fighting. But then I got to thinking in here where that was said, and now she knows this. So it made me think a little bit more today about this. If she knows this ahead of time, she knows what's coming, and she knows what's going to be. You don't think she wouldn't try to help him be the best version of him that he can be to get to where he's going? You know, by later on with a stolen blessing, but at the end of the day, that's the way God said it was going to be in the first place. So this, you know, it just went that way. My 2 cents. Take it or leave it. All right.
Possibly, she saw that his heart wasn't as good as Jacob's heart.
Could have been.
There was attitude, huh?
Could be because there's nothing said about any of that. You know, they leave a lot to assumption. There's a lot of gray area where there's nothing really said that, you know, this was this, this was this. But we can go from process of deduction and you look in later and how the Edomites treat them. I mean, granted, you know, Jacob did some things to Esau, you know, pull back, stole birthright, and then stole blessing. That could cause problems. That could cause a rift. So you kind of see a problem with it. But
Yeah, but you think about stealing a birthright. He took something that his brother rightfully gave him.
that too.
And so, you know, I go back and think, you know, he took it, the prophecy that was given to Rebecca,
Mhm.
that the younger should serve the older. That's a prophecy. God didn't make that be the case. God foresaw that that was going to be the case. Therefore, God told, you know, and so I don't think, whether it was stated or not, whether she knew or not, that's the way it was going to be. God just enlightened her to the prophecy, so I don't think it changed anything. Because then it would have been a prophecy. God would have said, I'm going to make this happen. You know, it had to do with their hearts. And, you know, Esau, like it was mentioned a minute ago about the nation, you know, I think that reflects the type of individual he was. You look at some other things that are said, who he married,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that says a lot about him, you know. And so that change, you know, it changes history, but that sets the stage for history to unfold. So all those things, the type of individuals they were, I think Jacob said, that was mine, we made a deal. And I don't agree, there's things in that incident that aren't right, you know.
We'd be holding food over somebody's head really is what he was doing. But then again, you know.
His mother helped him too.
In the later portion of it, yeah.
She helped him deceive his father.
Yeah, because he didn't want, I mean, then again, it also shows Jacob's person, his ideals, the way he was, because he really wasn't wanting to do that. He didn't want to deceive anybody, didn't want to lie to anybody. He was straightforward on the front side. Mm-hmm. All right. When Esau came in from the field and felt faint, he asked Jacob for what?
What's the significance of taking a hold of his heel? Why is that a big deal?
I'd say that shows, you know, your where it said that. Hold on. 23. That's where I was wanting to go. Two people shall be separated. One shall be stronger than the other. The older shall serve the young. That isn't what I wanted. To be supplanted or be bypassed by somebody. When you're chasing somebody down, you grab a hold and yank. You're pulling back. It's not really like got him by the neck, but it's showing I'm eventually going to be in front.
I thought part of it was the idea that he was always kind of like reaping from him. Like reaping his reward from the field, reaping his birth, just getting everything from him was part of it.
Pulling him back. I'll have to dig into that some more. You're making me think outside the box.
Well, I mean, Esau would have already been born, so he was hanging on to Esau as he was born.
Yeah, that I'll have to dig into. Now I forgot where I was at. I think we was at Esau. When Esau came in from the field and felt faint, he asked Jacob for what? Water, the stew, or a place to rest? Stew. Because the pot, and to me it would be this. Why was Esau called Edom? I'm going to ask that. I like that question better. I know what my answer is going to be, but.
Because he wanted stew.
Stew, red, the red portion of that gave him the name. What did Jacob tell Esau to do for the stew? Sell the birthright. Esau said he was going to die, so that his birthright was no use to him. Therefore, he sold his birthright to Jacob for some food. How did Esau regard his birthright, this special blessing he had as the firstborn? Genesis 25, 32 and 30 through 34.
And that's why I say it goes back to Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
God says this is what's going to happen. And Esau, whatever.
I think I lost where I was at. Oh, to help if I was writing the right verse. The end of verse 34 is where he says it. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So he didn't really care for it. He didn't have any want or desire. I mean, to despise something, what's it mean to dislike something? You know, nobody likes to hang out with me right now. Okay, we can understand that. That's an easy way to put this. But if you despise somebody, strongly, it's a strongly dislike. It's bordering on hate, really. I mean, to me, if I despise something, it's something that, you know, if it's at that door, I'm going out that door. To me, that would be despised. That would be something you just, I'm not going to be around it. I think the best explanation for like despise, do you see something dead out in the field? You gonna go hang out by it, you know? You know, something dead in July, nice and stinky. Nobody wants to be around that. Despised is kind of that way. To me, it's the want of not to deal with this. I don't want to be around it. And to have that kind of mentality towards something that you were given freely, and the position you're in goes back to where Caleb said, you know, shows the character of the person, as you find out later by what his offspring relatives do.
He's always out in the field. You know, he wanted to go do his thing,
Mhm.
be alone. And so what you read about Abraham and his wealth, he would have passed down to Isaac, which would have passed, you know, so he seems like the kind of guy that would have not wanted the responsibility. You know, when Lot got carried away, his family, Abraham had 318 soldiers that were born in his house. So you think about it, to have 318 soldiers that were born in your house, to servants that you know, provided for, took care of, you know, servants. You're talking about hundreds of people he was responsible for. So you think about the massive amounts of livestock that he would have had to have and all that went along with it. And I feel like, you know, Esau, he just wanted to go to the woods and hunt game and be by himself and not have that on his shoulders.
Could have been that. That's very. I mean, you think about it from what Abraham had to Isaac. If Isaac got everything per se, other short of what Abraham gave the later children, but for what Isaac got, say the double portion, even if it wasn't his full wealth. Now, Isaac's got that. Now, what happens when he expands what he's, you know, if he keeps building on what's there, think how much bigger that got, and then to not come in and be like, I don't want to mess with this. You know, like Caleb said, I mean, that's pretty good. If you're a person of the field, you're a hunter or you like the outdoors, I guess the biggest question, do you hang around people? Really? I mean, you're kind of a loner, want to go out here and do your own thing.
Responsibility goes along with it.
Yeah. Well, you're free. I mean, you go out there, you're free. There's nothing tying you back. There's nothing tying you down. So that's what he liked. All right, we got one more, I think, here. Hold on just a second. Yeah, we'll get through this tonight. The prophecy, which I think we covered it pretty good. There was two nations in her womb. One was stronger. The older shall serve the younger. And I'd put underneath here Rebecca's favor towards one versus the other, and that's kind of where I was going to come into it with, but I did it earlier, so I'm not going to worry about it. But that prophecy shows what comes to play, and we'll see that as we go forward on how things happen. Any other comments this evening?
Well, this one's always puzzled me because God always has a hand in everything. He could switch them to have them come out right and just let the first one and made it simple, but I don't understand why it was so complex.
I'm going to say life's not complex, and sometimes things happen you can't control.
Now, he
I mean,
could have.
yeah, God could switch it and make it the way it needs to be, but he also gives a person a chance to go out and do what's right. If you think about it that way, you know, we're not here to do, there's nobody holding a leash to us telling us, okay, you're going to go do this and this way. We're free to go. Well, it's up to us to do what we do. Make that.
Teach a lesson, you're saying.
I think it shows that you need to make the right decisions. Because Esau had the opportunity to make the right decision, and he went the other way.
It's just been always kind of a different one, I mean, because he's got his hand in everything, so he could have changed that.
I muddied that up pretty good. All right. Thank you for your comments this evening.